All right, what's on the bench today? It's a big PC board, very big PC board, and it's an antenna. People may remember I've done a bunch of videos on PC board antennas, many of which I bought on eBay or AliExpress or whatever like that. I did a whole series of me designing my own Yagi antenna, and then actually having it sent out to an antenna test house, and they actually did a full sweep of this antenna in 3 dimensions. That was really cool. So this is a real classic Yagi design. There's a driven element, a reflector, and then directors. Now this is claimed to be a Yagi Uda antenna as well, but it is not. It sort of has the hallmarks that it has a reflector and directors, but the spacing and everything doesn't resemble any of those designs that I know of. Yagi and Uda are Japanese fellows who invented the thing, but anyway. So this is big and this is small. This one was designed for 2.4 gigahertz, and this is designed for 868/915. So he tried to make it broadband enough that it would cover this range. This is about 2.7 times what would be required. The frequencies are about 2.7 in ratio. So let's see, here's the driven element. So 1, 2.7. So you can imagine you could build this just bigger. It would just be this big size. And that's basically what he's done here. Now, the feed comes in 50 ohms, and then it has a quarter wave stub here to do phase matching. And here's the driven element. The actual reflector element, even though you think it's maybe these 2 lines, there's this big patch of copper in the back. So that's the reflective element. It's this big patch of copper. And in fact, it extends up underneath this area here. So he said that this was due to making it broadband, that by putting in some extra little doohickeys, it created a broadening of the resonance of the thing, okay? And I looked at maybe doing that by having both sides of the PC board having solid elements, which increase the bandwidth as well. The larger the diameter of the rods of a Yagi antenna, the bigger the bandwidth. And so you can attack it that way as well. But let's take a look at the rest of this thing, which is really bizarre. The reflectors here's the driven element. You would think the next director would be about here, and you would have maybe room for 3 directors like I have here. Mine has 3 directors. But he has this really close-in director, and then this one is spaced pretty far out, and then it's followed up with this director, which is the same size, and then a little director, which that seems really bizarre to me. I would want to see this in EasyNet or ADS or something, and look at what this does. This is a strange little way to do it. Now, this is not going to be a very directional Yagi, okay, because of the placement of these elements, and so it's not going to have a really narrow lobe, right? He claims it's 7 dBi. My little guy measured 8.5 dBi, so I don't know if his 7.5 dBi is actual measurement or just the design parameter, but mine actually measured 8.5 dBi. dBi is dB over intrinsic. Intrinsic is just a sphere of RF radiation. A dipole antenna has a gain of about 2.7, something like that, and then this has a gain of 7 dB over an isotropic emitter. So yeah, so this is a really bizarre. This is kind of interesting little thing here. Yeah, let's. I don't have good equipment to measure the actual gain of an antenna. But he did send me some radiation plots of this thing. So I'll put them in here. And you can see that it's not very Yagi-like. It doesn't really have any side lobes or anything. It just has one big main lobe and then a pretty big back reflection. I forget what they call that. There's a pretty big back lobe. And so I'm not quite sure that all equates to 7 dBi, but I'll trust him. Yeah, we'll go from there. So this was sent in by a fellow in Turkey. His address is at a university there. I don't know if he's a postdoc or a professor. I'm assuming he's a postdoc. And he's selling this on Etsy. Okay? And it's not cheap. It's about $55. You can get a real 13-element aluminum poled Yagi for that price. So I'm not sure if this one's going to be maybe more rugged. I don't know. It's got some mounting holes in it. I don't know. So it's up to you whether you think this is worth the money or not. It's certainly got a big PC board area, so yeah, it is going to be pricey. If you tried to build this yourself, yeah, it's going to be pricey. The price isn't unreasonable. It's just that there are alternatives for the same price point. But what I can do is I can put it on the VNA, and we can see if it is resonant at these two frequencies. So let's do that. All right, so let's set up a measurement here. We're going to do a reflection measurement. Reflection measurement. We are going to sweep from, let's say, I don't know, 700 megahertz to a stop frequency of, let's say, 1.1 gigahertz, something like that. All right, and then we will do a cal, one port. And we will put an open on, measure that, put a short on, measure that, and put a load on. Takes longer to screw it on than it does to calibrate. Okay, measure that. All right, so let's see here. We are doing a reflection measurement. We're going to format log mag. Our scale is going to be 10 dB per division, and there we go. So let's go ahead and back up a bit here so you can see what's going on. All right, so let's attach the antenna. And we're getting a dip. All right, now the antenna needs to be kind of suspended in space. Okay, and so how are we going to do that? Now, I think these things normally are vertically polarized in the use case that he has in mind. And so what I'm going to do is I have a little string here that's tied to the rafters, and I'm going to try to suspend. So these antennas, you want to have them basically in an anechoic chamber, which I don't have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of suspend it in free space here, so it's not really touching anything. All right. And then we can kind of look here at the dips. Let's see, markers. I've got one marker at 868, and I got one marker at 915. So those are the two markers. It doesn't seem. Oh, there we go. See, I need to sort of move this thing out a ways from everything. It's still getting influenced by other things in the room. But let's do a display. I know everybody likes Visware because that's what their brain is calibrated into. So It's basically about a VISWR of 1.2. And can you see that? I can't see my camera. There we go. So here are the two markers. So we're here at almost about 1.2 to 1 VISWR at those two frequencies. So yeah, it is doing its thing, and it does seem to be broadband. So it's got this little double lump. So by putting in those extra little doohickeys he's got, he's able to broadband this over a bit. Let me see if I can move it around and get us to have a different picture. Yeah, it depends on what's around the antenna. Yeah, there we go. So I'm putting my hand around the antenna, and you can see that we get different things depending on what surrounds the antenna. So these things are really hard to measure in my lab. They really need to be in an anechoic chamber so you don't get any reflections and stuff. But yeah, it is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Yeah, just for fun, let's take a look at it on the Smith chart. And we get this little loop around 50 ohms, so it's basically, it's got a good VISWR around there. We'll do a polar plot. So this is a plot of VISWR. And we can scale in a bit. Oops, the other way. And so that one tight little curl there is a good VISWR right at 50 ohms. So yeah, there you go. All right, well, that was a quick look at this antenna that this guy designed. I'll put a link down below to his Etsy site if you want to get one of these things. It certainly is thin and lightweight. It's got that going for it. I think his use case is drones. So maybe Wi-Fi. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what those frequencies are mostly used for. But yeah, there we go. The Arcus. And it's got arrows, making sure that that's where the radiation comes out. It's going that way.